The station of the stars. RTI.
That'll be us then on Postcard From Poprad, your weekly news review, because we're kind of here like that every week. Live chat as well on the chat rooms, and it's snowing. Rachel's never going to believe this. It is snowing. It is white. My grain grass is white. My car was covered white. It went from red to white today. Gosh. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. With no further ado, let's move across around the planet, as we do, and we'll start with Rachel down there in the Summerlands, or is it the Springlands? I don't know.
Summerlands. It's almost snowing here too. Hello, Uncle Eric. Hello everybody.
Hello. How are you?
Hello. Well, I'm all right. I think Henry and I are going to have a little chat about this in a second, but... We're all sort of desperate. We're desperate for toilet paper here, and there seems to be some sort of issue there. But we appear to be alive. But it's actually been very, very, very rainy on the East Coast, and it's been quite cold. It was only 19 degrees today.
Well, that's a good thing. Lots of rain gets all the growth going again.
That's true.
There you go. You see, your cup has to be half full. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
And we have to say hello. We have to say hello to Robbie. He's listening from the Pilbara in Western Australia, where he's currently working.
Oh, hello. Hello, Robbie, in the Pilbara, where he's working. I've got more funny countries to come up with as well in a moment as well. But there you go. We'll stay in Australia to say hello to Henry.
Hello, how you doing? Welcome from Sydney, just after 11 p.m. I'm looking forward to our winter time when it's only 9 p.m. when we're talking to you.
Yes, April 5th, Henry, April 5th.
But, Henry, we are good for your health.
Yeah. I hope you are.
Well, we are, because you've got a rule like mine, which is no alcohol before you do radio. So if you think about it logically, we're helping your liver.
It's good. It's good for my health. I just, Rach and I were just talking off air about toilet paper, and I was talking to my girlfriend Caroline about this earlier on tonight, our time, and I said to her, what is this obsession with toilet paper and coronavirus? I can't make the connection.
I can't either.
No. I think it's just...
Why is it making so much media?
Obsession. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get lambasted for this. It's because the journalists don't know what the heck they're talking about, and so they'll do just about anything to get a story out of the minute because they're hopeless.
And they've made everybody hysterical for toilet paper. It's just the most... Wouldn't these people be better off buying, if they're worried about the apocalypse, which, what about food? If you don't have any food, you don't have any need for toilet paper.
Well, that's true. Very true. And so...
Hello, Dave.
Are you right, Dave?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You sound very quiet.
Oh, hang on then. How's that?
Oh, that's better. Oh,
that's lovely.
That's lovely. How are you this week? Are you struggling for toilet rolls?
No, we're not struggling for toilet rolls, and the sun is shining, the sky is blue, and the neighbours are having their roof redone, so it sounds like a bit like a builder's yard here.
Mitchell says hello, as does Paul, who says we got naked walls. No, that's soundproofing, the black stuff. That's soundproofing. Apparently, the weather forecast for the Yorkshire Riviera is bright sunshine today. And Keith has joined us in Birmingham. Hello, Keith. We'll say hello to Efta, who is in Greece.
Oh, cool.
That's nice. Hello to Miza. I think that's Miza. Hello to Emmy and Peta as well. Nice to have you with us. Oh, we're getting lots of love in on the other one already. Lots to squeeze in this week, as always. We should, I've just got to say a thank you. Can I do that, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I am constantly bombarded with negatives about customer services. It's been my life for decades. And very rarely do I bump into good customer service. Now, there's a shock to the system. Now, I've got this beautiful old in modern terms, internet radio that's battery-powered, rechargeable, and you wander around the garden with it. And it's lovely. It looks like an old bush radio from the 1950s. And it's Bakelite looking to make. It's not really Bakelite, but it looks like it. And it died. And I thought, oh no. And it's not one we have on in the house regularly because we've got a pretty white, modernist-looking radio. We've got Alexa that plays RTI as well, blah, 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 blah. We've got radios everywhere. But this one is just one of those sort of things that I love. And Mrs. W bought it for me as a Christmas present. And when it died, I was really upset. And it's years out of warranty. So I thought, I'll try me luck. So I got hold of Soundmaster, who are the people that do it. And they do very modern versions of the same thing on Facebook. And lady writes back and goes, I don't know. So I give her all the problems, which I won't go through the whole thing. And she said, I really don't know what to do. I'll get hold of John. So I get hold of John. And John says, no, it sounds to me like a router problem or something like that. I said, no, I've lost all my channels and this has gone, that's gone. Hold on a minute, he said, leave it with me. I'll try and get the new revision software because we are going to do one. So you can try it. So I thought, cool. Sends it over, put it in the back of the radio, says update radio, and in seconds, on comes RTO. And I've gone, yes!
How happy are you?
Absolutely. So thank you to John and the team at Soundmaster for sending an way out of warranty radio software over to me. Plugged it in, boof, off we go. And I was walking around the house and Martina was laughing at me. She goes, I'm trying to watch the news. But of course, I was more happy with my little radio working.
Do you know what astonishes me the most about that story?
What?
Other than the brilliant customer service?
Yeah.
That Eric MacGyver Wilshire did not attempt to fix this thing himself with a ice cream stick, a paper clip, a rubber band, and an old piece of chewing gum. I don't think that I'm very happy about that. My image of you is totally blown.
I tried, Rach. I did try.
I bet.
I did try hard.
You did.
But
I bet you did.
But no, I knew. I just had a gut feeling it was the software or firmware. And thank you, John at Soundmaster, for sending it over. And now I've got the wireless back, and it's lovely. And as soon as we haven't got any snow, I can go out in the garden, you see, and I've got my wireless.
Boy,
what?
So you mean right now, because there's never any snow there.
Ah. Okay, I now have to do a listener public health warning.
Oh, no, don't be about toilet paper.
No, we're not going there yet. The following item could end up in an anorak session.
Oh,
I know.
no.
Yes.
When doesn't it?
Oh no, this is going to be bad. Trust me, this is going to be bad.
And I think to be fair, we'll let Dave handle it. What's it? 2nd of April for a wedding in Scotland. What? Carl, what are you talking about? Carl Kingston's in the house. Hello, Carl.
Carl, yay.
Yeah, and Paul says that Carl should go up to Hull. I have no idea why. Are they going to be drinking?
Because Hull's awesome, and Paul tells us every week that it's awesome. I want to go next time I'm in that part of the world.
I've only ever been to Hull once, and it was raining, so I didn't sort of pay a lot of attention. But there you are. Anyway, I'll let Dave handle this one, because if I start, it's going to go all weird. And I'll remind Keith Lewis at this point, because I spoke to him before we did this, and
Keith.
Yeah, he said, I know a song called Sirius. Really? And that's why we had that music track called Sirius on the show.
Was he serious, or was he?
So anyway, the legendary, and I have to say legendary, and I'll explain why, the US executive Jack Welch, who died at the age of 84, he was the boss of General Electric, and he started as a poster boy. He literally started at the ground, worked his way up, was never a guy to put on his poncy tie. He did wear a suit, open neck shirt, and he came up with a brilliant idea, because General Electric were always top-end electrical products in the US, and people couldn't afford them. So he set up in the 1950s a loan system so you could buy these huge American fridges and things on the tick, but with the company not a bank. And it worked. It took General Electric into the stratosphere. Then the silly...
Financed or charged at horrendous interest rates.
Right, then he financed lots of things, including a brand new satellite worth 250... Thank you, Keith. Alan Parsons, that's right. He then financed this $250 million satellite. And what happened to it, Dave?
Well, in the latter part of 1997, the Sirius 2 satellite was launched, and for its very first broadcast, they gave it to Eric and I to play with. So we played with it for trying to make sure the telly side of it all worked for a whole weekend. And amazingly, it still worked after we finished with it.
And it still works.
Yes,
to this day. Well, actually, we had Friday. We had Friday for testing.
Friday afternoon, evening, yes.
Yes, and then I never went home after that. I slept in the green
No,
room.
neither did I.
But
I'm still there.
I know. And
Go home, Dave.
And seriously, the lovely Jack Welch, who was, I can't believe it to this day what he did. This satellite broadcast to Europe only, people. And so, Dave and I had done this. Another friend of ours, Paul, had spoken to Dave's boss and hired us some capacity at Molyneux. So Hugh was the MD, I think, wasn't he, Dave?
Yeah, he was at the time, yes.
Yeah, he was MD. And when I arrived, he said, "Oh, thank God you're here." I said, "Well, it's only testing day." He said, "It's so surreal what's happening, I just didn't believe you were going to turn up." And, well, I did. And because he couldn't get his head round it either. We then found out from the, Antenna Federation of the UK, they were loving me and Dave. They were loving us.
Quite scary.
Yes, because people had got their dishes which were pointed to Astra to watch Sky Television. They'd had them moved to this new satellite for the weekend, and then the engineer was going back on the Monday to put them back on the Sky. I thought, that's very nice. And so there we were with a $250 million satellite, and we were the first ones to abuse it.
We had it all week.
That's a lot of pressure.
Story that is.
There's a lot of pressure.
We had it all weekend, and we managed to cram in 5 minutes of decent entertainment.
And do you... I'm nervous.
Why?
I've been really nervous having to deal with that.
Why?
I would be really nervous.
Why?
Well, it's $250 million worth. You don't want to accidentally, pour your coffee on it or something, do you?
That was the least of our problems.
Do you want to tell the
It
story?
wouldn't have mattered. MacGyver Wilshire would have fixed it.
No, it was MacGyver Rhodes that fixed it.
MacGyver Rhodes.
It was MacGyver Mark, actually, because we had a problem with this is 98, so going back into the realms of when technology was a bit rubbish, and we decided we would have emails and stuff come in, but we couldn't get the computer that had been loaned to us to work, and the modem didn't work. So in the end, my friend Mark, who I hang around with quite a bit, he disappeared off up to Tottenham Court Road and bought some bits and pieces, bolted it all together, and we then ended up with internet, which was quite handy. Otherwise, it could have all gone terribly wrong.
Yeah, but
we had already had.
We had no VT for like 90 minutes.
Ah, yes, that was Saturday morning, wasn't
Yes.
it? So, Eric was
Wait a minute,
down
stop.
at
What's it? You've got to explain it to the plebs,
Right.
i.e. me. What's
On-
VT?
all right.
British Telecom?
No.
No,
Oh, right.
VT as in
That's what I thought.
videotape.
Oh, VT, sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
So on Saturday morning, the idea was we were going to run the weekend and have inserts, video inserts, so we didn't have to sort of entertain people for a whole weekend, because that would be nuts, and we'd probably both be dead by now.
Yes.
So we had all these tapes come in that we were going to show, and unfortunately they came in on the wrong format tapes. So on Saturday morning, I'm desperately trying to copy these tapes over to stuff that we can use to broadcast in the building opposite, and just left Eric talking to the camera for a few hours.
Oh my God, that wouldn't have been any trouble for him at all.
Well, this is the thing. He says it was a problem, but I mean,
No, it wasn't.
trying to keep Eric quiet is the problem.
I was bits.
He did actually walk out of the studio when we ran the first tape, and he looked as though we'd thrown a bucket of water over him.
Yeah.
It was not pleasant.
Well, there was the lovely Laura sitting there as well. We were just winging it because there was nothing else to do. We had no guests ready for that time of the morning. Paul was doing weather that we didn't have. Laura was doing other subjects that we didn't have.
Emails that we didn't have.
Emails we didn't have. We did have a couple of faxes, I think,
Yes.
but that was about it. And we had planned this video thing to kickstart the program, so it was all very relaxed and we could be chilled out for the rest of the day. Unfortunately, no content whatsoever. So we winged it for 90 minutes on television.
That's the best kind of stuff, though. When you get thrown into absolute chaos and you have to wing it, it's great. I love that adrenaline rush.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
Live
that was,
radio.
Well, actually, talking of which, that was the kind of inspiration for what we're doing now, because we do radio normally and radio on TV. And a lot of people are watching on TV now because I can see you. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, we've got more loves. Oh, isn't that nice? Lots of loves. And what we did is we got our friends in from Radio Caroline for the evenings. Dave and his friends built a little radio studio. And we
In the green room?
In the green room, which meant I had to use the green room upstairs, which is a different story that I won't do on daytime radio.
Yes. No, don't do that story. No.
Mic open.
Ah, right.
As you were.
So Radio Caroline did radio on television before they'd even thought about it. And it was just fab. It just worked. And then, of course, I went up to the green room about midnight, and I'll try and change the story so the fellas will understand it, but no kids will.
I was going to say, be careful here. This is going to only end in tears.
Right. And, of course, we're in a broadcast complex with lots of other places, and I think we were Studio 2, weren't we?
Yes, we were in Studio 2, and there was another broadcast.
A live one
in Studio 1.
Which was run by a gentleman's magazine, but their TV channel.
Yes.
So I bowls into the green room, and rather like a naughty puppy dog that goes into a room that's not supposed to be there and then sees you, I sort of turn around, nearly fall over and jump back out again, thinking, I shouldn't be here. And the young lady said...
There was somebody else using the green room other than us.
Yes.
Let's just say that.
Yes, and the young ladies all shouted, no, come back, we want to talk to you.
No, you don't.
Panic. I was a young whippersnapper then. And so I went back in and talked to these three young ladies, and they just didn't care. They didn't. All they were interested.
Did you tell them that they could do much better and they should make something of themselves? I would have given them a lecture.
No, they wanted to go on our TV channel, and I said, you have to put clothes on.
This story just gets better by the minute.
It was so funny. And then, of course, we had one of the guys from Williams there, didn't we?
Yes, we had one of the guys from Williams turn up, and there was a Formula One program that we had. There is also another section that I think we should mention that was from the Saturday night that I know you're desperately trying to forget.
I am. This has a connection with Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
Is that video that I've seen?
This is, we had a lady by the name of Stella Wielden come in, and she's a line dance teacher.
Was.
Video I've seen.
Yeah, she was.
And
sadly
she
passed away.
Some of her line dancing team, and decided to teach Eric and Laura how to line dance.
Mm-hmm.
On the television. And if anybody who's met Eric knows he has I would say 2 left feet, but I don't even think they're left. It was, yeah. If you've ever seen anybody completely out of time, double it, and there you go. There's Eric trying to dance on the telly. It was,
and that is available on YouTube because
it is available on YouTube. In fact, you can find it easily on my website. DJRcreative.com. If you go to the section that's called Media Zoo and scroll to the bottom, there's loads of old bits about what Eric and I used to get up to, including Eric learning to line dance. There's also some other bits from Satfest as well. There's a bit of Dave with radio vision. Oh dear, that could be bad. So yeah, there's all sorts of things there. What else is up here? There's some of the graphics that we had. Oh, there's all sorts of bits and pieces. I will find more because I've got all the logger tapes.
Have
and
you?
I found them. Yeah, I found them the other day.
Good heavens. Good
There's
heavens.
there's no tapes of the ladies in the green room, is there, Dave?
No.
Well, there might be, but they're definitely not going anywhere near the internet unless somebody's sending money.
Yeah, lots of I'm just trying to think now. Whose dad came with him? The singer from Yes.
Oh, that was at the
What
very
great
end,
bands.
wasn't it?
Oh
no, yes.
Yes.
what,
Yes, in fact, yes.
Why do I think his name begins with J, but it doesn't? And I can't remember. Who's the famous guy from Yes with the long hair? Not all of them. Come on, keyboard player.
Come on, audience.
Come on, audience, interact with us. Keyboard player for Yes.
Come on, Dave Rhodes. You need to be faster than this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway,
John Anderson.
No,
No.
not John.
Rick Wakeman.
Rick Wakeman. Thank you. Paul's just come up with it as well. Rick Wakeman came along with his son, and we had the great opportunity of introducing his first album ever.
It's so good. They're so good. Yes, it was brilliant.
Oh, it was just amazing. You sort of kind of sitting there, but you can't. I don't know. When you're doing live telly, which I love doing. Don't get me wrong. I always love live telly. You can see all these people behind the cameras that you can't talk about, and some of them are people you really want to sit and have a natter with, but you can't because it's other people. And as Paul quite rightly said, yes, Rick Wakeman's one of the biggest anoraks you'll ever bump into, and I couldn't have any anorak time.
Well, you've had some now, so
have we?
Yeah, like the last.
You've had
how long?
quite a bit, about 20 minutes or so.
Whoops. Anyway, I'm sure there'll be many more of those stories as we get through. Oh, Dave's put it on Facebook. Thank you very much indeed, Dave. DJRcreative.com/zoo, and you can find the video of me
Line dancing.
Well,
Boot scooting.
I wasn't actually looking up at the time.
No.
No.
Can I give you a useless... This is quite funny about Jack Welch, who this all started about. In 1963, he blew the roof off a factory he was managing by accident and nearly got fired from General Electric.
Yeah, what a guy.
So there you go.
Oh, that's right. That's what I was going to tell you, wasn't I?
Of working your way up.
Yeah, we were broadcasting to Europe. So what did Jack Welch do? He ordered a channel on another satellite from a competitive company called Intelsat. So he had it beamed, what Dave and I were doing, into his house in the States. And then we got a message back via Paul to say how much he was enjoying the programme. And I thought, flipping heck, that wasn't three bad, was it? So he lent us one satellite, then had to borrow another one. Blimey. Gets confusing. We move on because we've been anoracking, but we love anoracking. We've had elections here. There was so many people scared in Slovakia that a very, very right-wing organisation were going to pick up the votes, which were falling away from the left side. Now, bear in mind, this is a former communist state. It's logical that they would have a sort of leftish government after that. But no, they've been chucked out in favour of a centre-right government. So we've got...
That's happening all over the world, isn't it, Uncle Eric?
Yeah.
You know, it really is. It's happened here, happened in the UK, happened in America. It seems to be a trend. I don't. It's like the toilet paper. It's all baffling.
Well, this guy, Igor Matovich, good news, he's a media person. That's where he made all of his money. He then signed over all of his companies to his wife and then went into politics. And the big card that he played was the fact that two people, an investigative journalist and his fiancée, were actually murdered. And people are claiming it was this, that, and the other person that did it, da-di-da-di-da. And it hasn't, I won't say it's been washed, away or hidden under the carpet, but it hasn't come to the forefront. And what Matovich is saying is he wants to have a proper, and I mean a proper, investigation into what happened and who was responsible. And the really far left and far right actually complained, saying he was going for the populist vote. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what politics is about, being popular and winning votes. Hello. Yeah,
I know. Apparently there's a little bit of an issue on Facebook, which is nothing we can do about it. Sorry, that's Facebook. Perhaps they don't like me again. That's because I've written to them yesterday. I wrote a letter.
I told you not to agitate Facebook before a show.
I actually wrote a letter on paper, and, well, I didn't take it to the post office, the girls did. And it was posted, recorded delivery to Mark Zuckerberg.
Fantastic. Now we'll never be back on Facebook.
No, that's true.
Okay.
Anyway, good luck to Igor Matovich, who's been to see the president. She's agreed to have him as PM. And I just think it could be a nice start for Slovakia. Good luck to you, sir. Really good luck to you. Virgin Media has had breached their data's been breached. 900,000 customers. Names, addresses, telephone numbers were opened for the hackers to find. They've now closed the loop. You haven't got Virgin Media, have you, Dave?
No. It's only been available for 10 months, apparently. It's been... But they think it's only been accessed at least once, so evidently nobody thought that there was anything interesting
Yeah,
there.
but it will now go on the dark web and everybody will have it anyway.
Yes,
True.
Apparently so. So,
yes.
It'd been up for 10 months, and Virgin Media claimed it was a member of staff who hadn't followed proper protocols.
Yeah, and by the way, Virgin Media is nothing to do with Richard Branson now, before anybody starts on that one.
I was actually about to ask that, because I know that obviously Branson started Virgin on so many levels, airlines, media, but he actually has nothing to do with it anymore.
He's very smart. It's like
he jumped out in time, didn't he?
It's the same as he did with Virgin Radio. What happens was he will build a product up. He'll either stay with it long time like the airlines, or offer a management buyout or something like that with Chris Evans at the time. But the operational company has to pay a license fee to carry on using the Virgin name. What a clever businessman.
That's smart.
He's smart.
Very clever.
Yeah, very clever. Oliver Dowden says the BBC needs to do more to reflect the UK's genuine diversity. He's the Culture Secretary in the UK. Yeah, I agree, Mr. Dowden. Don't pull the stupid programmes on there that are only for old Tony Hall's mates.
Whatever happened to the BBC? I mean... it's funny that I saw this when you sent me this information. Must reflect nation, says Culture Secretary. Here in Australia, the ABC is our national broadcaster. It does not carry advertising. The government pays for it all. And study of young people in Australia, I'm talking people under the age of 18 to 30.
Yeah.
And they came up with this. The whole thing was skewed in the first place. The question was so complicated, and they did that purposely, that young people thought, a majority of them, actually, 45% said, I don't know, was the answer to the question, do you think that the ABC is appropriate to young people? And it turns out that all these young people. I mean, when I came to Australia at the age of 26, and Rach, when we were young, who cares about the ABC? It's a national broadcaster. When you're young, and nowadays you're watching YouTube. Mm-hmm. So in those days,
it's boring.
So it was all skewed, and the whole point of this is that the right-wing media are trying to commercialize the ABC, just like Margaret Thatcher tried to do in the 1980s. They won't win, and they've done it all the wrong way, and that's just my point of view.
And it's very nice, Henry. Well said.
Well put, sir. Well put. Let's ask a man who actually is legally able to watch the BBC, and I won't say just watch, listen and read. Because the BBC doesn't just offer telly, it offers radio, it offers online, it offers education, all sorts of manner of wondrous things for this tiny TV licence fee. And to be honest, it's probably the best value for TV, radio and other stuff, channels as a compendium anywhere in Europe. So what do you reckon to it, Dave?
What do I reckon to it? They say that the BBC must reflect the nation and deliver genuine diversity. Well, they can't please everybody all of the time.
No.
And so no matter what they do, they're always going to be wrong in as far as one part of the population is going to turn around and say, that doesn't appeal to me. Why are you showing that?
Yeah.
Even down to the news, there are people that say the news is biased, but then when you find out these people, they all represent all the different parties and they're all complaining that they're against them. So I don't know.
Well, if all the political parties are complaining they're biased, they
That's
must be
good.
doing it right.
Exactly. So, but no, they give quite a large amount of stuff to the public. I mean, as you say, there's all these TV channels, there's all the radio channels, there's all the online stuff as well. So it seems to be pretty good value for money, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the only criticism I've got is the way that they've gone down this stupid route of trying to get the newspaper critics to like the programmes. And you read everywhere, that's a fantastic programme from the BBC, which means, dear listener, that if you're in the UK right now, you probably hate it. Because if the TV critic says it's good, it's going to be rubbish. Logical.
This is like reverse psychology.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
That's not.
What?
I'm too tired to even argue.
Thank God I could say anything I want now. Oh, goody.
You know what, guys? I've always been a fan of the BBC. I grew up with it in Ireland because we could pick up BBC Radio 1, 2, 3 and 4, particularly Radio 4 I was a fan of. And I don't know if I'm wrong or right about this, but the BBC can't win, as you just said, guys. It really can't win because it is a national broadcaster. It doesn't have an agenda like the commercial networks, ITV or, Channel 4 or whatever. And I just think the BBC is always going to be in this position. But the main thing is that it remains the national broadcaster, in my view, anyway.
Well, Keith has just said, I didn't ask for any of the BBC services, so why should I be compelled to pay? Well, there's a number of answers there, because one of them is, if you've only got commercial broadcasting, you've got nothing to value it against. You can't have a benchmark. And I think that's one thing.
Totally agree, yeah.
And I think the other thing is, and this is not being rude to you, Keith, because I know your situation, but there are a lot of people who cannot afford to pay for extended TV and radio services, albeit those horrible, stupid things like, but I can't even say that.
Streaming services.
No, I was going to say that name, but I can't because it's horrible and it is junk. And anyway, not everybody on the planet has access to those extended choice services, and probably they do struggle to pay for the licence fee. I know that. But let me just finish. If everybody pays in, then it keeps the licence fee down for those that really are struggling to pay it. Because if people didn't all put in, it would put the licence fee up. Henry.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just, for Rach and myself, this seems bizarre. I grew up in Ireland. RTE, the national broadcaster, does have a licence fee as well as advertising. The BBC does not have advertising, but it has the licence fee. For someone like Rachel, who grew up in Australia, or anyone who grew up in America, this whole idea of a licence fee is bizarre.
Yeah.
I swear, every time this comes up, I think of that episode of The Young Ones where the licence inspector comes to the door and Vivian eats the telly so that she can hide it.
I know. But the thing is, I mean, we indirectly, through services payments, pay in to the Slovak state broadcaster. But they also carry adverts. And
yeah, just like Ireland.
Yeah, and it's annoying. It is absolutely. It's just horrible. And
but Eric, shouldn't we be paying? We pay taxes here in Australia for the national broadcaster, the ABC, who run about 7 stations digitally now. Shouldn't that be enough? Without paying a license fee, number one, and number two, advertising. We're already paying for them through our taxes.
I get that, and it is slightly different in the UK, Henry. And Keith's just brought up a really good point about the thing called a BritBox, which is is available just in about every territory going. And with the BritBox, you get programmes that have already been paid for from not just the BBC, it's ITV and BBC. And you're kind of paying for them twice, and I get it, but the difference with the BBC over so many other state broadcasters is that they have a division called BBC Worldwide, which I have to declare, I used to work for them once, when Marcus Bicknell was the boss. And
they're now called BBC World.
Yes, just called BBC World,
yes.
yeah.
And they're commercial.
That is a commercial entity. Every pound it makes as profit goes straight back in to the BBC's kitty to actually keep the licence fee down. So the more BritBoxes that are sold around the world, it actually holds the licence down. It keeps the cost down to people. And whilst I agree with you, Keith, that thank you for keeping it clean on your chat room, bleep, making you pay for programmes you've already paid for. I get it. I totally get it, Keith. But I think the one thing that I would also add at this point, and hi to Shiri Sharma, I think, who is somewhere in the Asian Pacific region, if I remember rightly. The BBC is so highly respected around the world. Me personally, I can have access to BBC World Television. It is awful. It is terrible. It is,
really?
I think it's the worst channel ever invented.
Gee, I've got to ask you why.
Because it doesn't do anything that's British.
But they are international. They're saving the BBC, Eric. The domestic BBC in the United Kingdom, as you say, they're keeping the rates down in terms of your payments every year. But they are international. They're competing with CNN, obviously, and other networks.
Yeah, they do. But the thing is, it doesn't ever. You have a top news story in the UK. I would expect that to be the number one story on BBC World News as well. It isn't. You'll often find something I've never heard about, and I'm pretty good with news. Is their lead story, and I'm going, but why aren't you talking about this in the United Kingdom, which you should be talking about? And they don't.
Because it's for the world, though. It's a world service, so they're going to grab whatever's headlining in the world.
Keith has just said, it's a good job I'm not in that studio. You will be one day. Now, Sherry's just confirmed. He's in India.
Cool.
There you go, mate. Well, nice to have you with us. Great. Tell your friends. And Keith also said, don't forget BBC America, BBC Canada, and BBC in the Czech Republic. They don't have them in Slovakia anymore. But
they're the biggest. BBC are still the biggest in the world, and this annoys the hell out of American organisations like CBS, NBC. They get really annoyed about the fact that the BBC, the World Service, of course, the radio station, starting back in the 20s, and the BBC's TV networks, as has just been mentioned, in North America and around the world, they absolutely make American networks look tiny.
Yep.
Because they are the biggest. And as Rach mentioned, if they're if you're talking about, BBC World, you're talking about BBC World, not just Britain.
Okay.
BBC's got its British
roots. Yeah, I get it. Mitchell says, if I start up a TV company that offers the same service as the BBC with no adverts, then send everyone in the UK a yearly bill. Would that be acceptable? If you did like for like, Mitchell, I could get it. But it's not a TV channel. It's TV channels. It's radio stations and online services and education services. The BBC is not just television. And I think that's the biggest problem. They're leading with television. Yes. And in reality, I don't give a cuss what the critics think about in the newspapers, because I don't care about the papers either. So
you know what? You know what they should do to become even bigger, and maybe this will push down the fees? They should start manufacturing toilet paper.
Yeah, this is true. and Keith, he would be so cross if he was here. Really good point. Can't stand the waste. I cannot cope with it. And that is the problem with any corporate entity like the size of the BBC. And I always remember talking to an old mate of mine, Mike, who's on here every Wednesday doing the Soul Show. And Mike Hollis was saying that the BBC once went over to Radio Luxembourg to film some birthday party or other they were having there. And there was the guy at Radio Luxembourg sitting there on his own doing a self-op radio show. BBC Radio 2 had over 20 people to do a little outside broadcast. That is the BBC. That is the BBC.
Lots of people.
Yeah,
yes.
They cannot get their heads round being modern. And I mean, I can remember with a gentleman called Alan Johnson, who was a morning host on BBC Oxford. When Skype first came out, I said to him, Alan, why don't we do it by Skype? It'll be better quality than the phone. So he went, okay, Eric, what a great idea. And I set Alan up account anyway, and you should have seen the people that got involved. Oh, we don't know, it might mess up our network. You could bring all sorts of viruses in, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And there were dozens of them that were calling. And
Eric, I just want to quickly say, I go on to Irish radio on a regular basis on FM, and they always say, okay, because of tragedies like fires and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, can we do this on Skype? And they go, no. And I'm going, why? It's 10 times better quality.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We just don't do this. Why? Why can't you do this?
Because the thing, and the worst bit, Henry, do you know they left they got a guy from London to go down to Oxford to sit in the studio with his own laptop. I don't know what he was doing. Apparently he was looking for potential viruses while Alan was on air. Well,
he was looking for the ladies in the green room.
That's very true. The boss says, "Hi guys."
Uncle Yan.
Nope.
Mrs. Wiltshire.
Martina.
No.
Petra.
No.
Bruce Springsteen.
No.
Robbie says,
Robbie.
my boss.
Yes.
Hi.
Your boss. The boss.
Hello, Robbie.
Robbie, are you okay for toilet paper? Because I just actually read a story about a woman in Queensland in Brisbane who went online and ordered toilet paper, and instead of ordering her 44 rolls, she ordered 40 by mistake by putting an extra zero in, and she got delivered 40 rolls.
Right, we're going to crack through some news a bit quickly. The BBC story will rumble on, and to be honest, I don't think that the government would dare kill it off. They won't. Don't worry about it. Katy Perry's revealed that she's preggers in her new music video. Oh, good on her. Why not?
This is cute. And do you know what else she's doing, Uncle Eric? I'm so impressed with her, Katy Perry. I love her. And she's a wonderful humanitarian. She's actually on her way here right now to do a bunch of concerts. But guess what she's doing, bless her heart? She's doing a concert out in a place called Bright, which I've mentioned before, because it's near Harriettville. It's near Harriettville, where Robbie and I wanted to build our house.
Yeah.
She's going out there to support bushfire-affected people and giving everything she makes to the communities across that way.
Good lady. We like you. What a good one. Thank you, Katie. You're wonderful. These stores have warned that there could be closures as the company has said its annual profits have dived. They will do, Mr. Waitrose and Mr. John Lewis, because people are buying more online. That's the way. It's up to the people. If they don't want the shops when they want them, they won't be there because they buy it all online.
I love the Waitrose. I loved it.
Yeah, I know. There were serious failings at Save the Children, a charity in the UK, as they let staff down over harassment claims. Little quick update on the coronavirus here for people. There has been a suspension of visas to get into the country for those that do need visas, like Beijing, Seoul, Tehran and places like that. The consulate in Shanghai has got preventative medicines against the spread of the new coronavirus. If you are a Slovak abroad listening to the programme, please go to your local consular office and they will give you more advice if you're worried about coming back. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry, it's going to be like that. It's bonkers, but there you go. We've
got a terrible situation here, Uncle Eric, in the wake of the bushfires. Do you remember we were encouraging people, please come and visit, and now that's really very difficult for people to do. So Australia has been double, triple.
It really is a double whammy from the fires, then the floods, and now this coronavirus.
Not so good.
Yeah.
Spitting images to return on the BritBox with Harry and Meghan in the middle of it. 24 years ago, it was last seen. Talking of Australia, as we just were, satellites have been turned to Australian vegetation. The scientists have developed satellite technology to help predict where bushfires might start next year. Or next season, not next year, next season. Which I think is a flipping good idea.
It's a great idea, but I don't think, because so much got burnt, I don't think it's going to be tricky, because there's so much that's burnt. It can't burn again for a little while. But there's so much of it. We were talking about the size of the fires, and there's so much of it. I think they're going to have to figure it out in greener pastures, as it were.
True. Sherry is asking me to look at the camera. No, I don't need to look at the camera. If I do, I'll break it. Facebook rethinks its plans over the Libra cryptocurrency. Thank God for that. It doesn't look like it's going to go ahead. Millions of websites...
Yes, it does. Hold on a minute.
What?
That's old news. Because Facebook came back after this was reported earlier in the week and said... And their spokesman said, reporting that Facebook does not intend to offer the Libra currency in its Calibra wallet is entirely incorrect. Facebook remains fully committed to the Libra project.
They're the only ones that are. Millions of websites face insecure warnings, apparently, as a bug in the digital certification leaves people not knowing what the heck's going on. Genesis, I'm really sad about this. I am so sad.
Why?
I was very complimentary about Phil Collins when he did his last concert in Paris, and I applauded him, respected him, and said, what a great thing you're doing, because he said, that's it, I'm out. We're not coming back in bath chairs, we're going to leave the stage for young people. And I thought, you know what, mate? That is flipping marvellous. What a great thing. And I was very lucky because they were signed to Warner Music. and the MD of Warner Music Europe knew I was a Genesis fan. I've always been a Genesis fan. And he said, I've got the double DVD of it. I'll bring it over for your present. And I play it to this day. It's wonderful. But they're not going to be like that. Tony Banks, Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford are not going to sound like they did 13 years ago. It's not going to.
No. Have a look at what ABBA's doing. They're in their 70s and they're going to do this weird thing where they're releasing a whole new album and they're going to be appearing as, what are they called on computers? I can't remember.
Holograms?
Holograms.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of, I thought that's kind of weird. I think, I don't think they wanted to do this, but they're doing it anyway.
Money talks. Money talks.
With regard to Phil Collins, I mean, I loved Genesis back in the 70s when they did really weird stuff. Fantastic albums, very dreamy kind of albums. But I never liked Phil Collins. He was the drummer.
Oh.
Am I a bad person?
Yes. Absolutely.
No, seriously.
I'm a bad person.
After this is over, you need to go into
You're going to kill me.
Yeah, you talk. I'm going to wave to Sherry because you could sense the feeling in the response of me replying and him going, okay. So I'm going to look at the camera just for Sherry and wave. There you go.
You have to go into a quiet room, Henry, and have a
scream.
bit of self-reflection and maybe even have a word with yourself because that's the most appalling thing I've ever heard you say.
Phil Collins.
Tonight is the best song ever written. And
Yes.
Uncle Eric will agree with me.
I agree. Sorry, guys, I got to cut you short because there's a couple of stories I want to squeeze in. Met Police have been left astonished, as am I. 2 Metropolitan Police officers, these are 2 of the guys that were responding to the terror attack in Streatham, where that idiot was let out of prison. They're absolutely dumbstruck, as am I, because they're being told that they're under investigation by the police watchdog. I cannot believe it. Stop it. Do not do it. End now. End of story.
Suspicion of dangerous driving and gross misconduct.
Which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. The Queen has presented the lovely Harry Billings with an MBE. He's the guy that was one of the first to get off the ship and get on the ground. As a D-Day veteran, he's raised £1 for every British soldier who died in Normandy.
Wow.
What a guy. Fantastic. Yeah. Sad news from Australia. The national news agency, Australia's Associated Press, will be shut down in June because it's just not viable anymore. Ooh, really?
No, they run it. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not. It's really not. It's
It's diversity of media, and I think that's what's happened here. And they were such a respected organisation, but respected organisations in news don't seem to matter anymore. Hello, we've just been talking about the BBC.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. It's all sensationalist media, and that's what's happened to the AAP.
Rach, here we go. You will send hate mail now. As a singer, Phil Collins is a great drummer.
Who was that?
It was Keith. It was Keith Lewis.
No, it's all right. I just want to say something to him, if I may.
I'm with Keith.
Keith Lewis, you and I are Facebook friends, albeit I often like things on your page, yet you've never even said hello to me. And now I have to say, do not bother.
Very personal.
Wonderful. Judge Judy.
I'm just kidding. You can say hello to me.
Yeah, the wonderful Judge Judy, whose programme I love, is ending her time behind or on the stand after 25 years.
She's superior, right? She's the highest paid woman in television.
And she's brilliant. She is so good. So good. I cannot believe this is happening now from Twitter, and I know it's to do with the coronavirus. Twitter has told its staff to work from home in Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea. They should be telling them to work at home always. Think of your environmental connections. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
And they've been doing that in Los Angeles for the last 20 years.
Yeah, this is Twitter. This is Twitter.
Don't drive on the highways where someone might take out a gun and try and kill you in your car on the highways in Los Angeles.
Keith has just responded.
Been onto this for a long time.
I know. Keith has just responded. Ouch.
Oh no, you can always say hello to me. I love you.
That's all right. The
Labour
Labour Party is bracing itself for huge losses in the May elections in the UK. No surprises there. Well, to Amazon this week, they actually culled 1 million fake coronavirus products off their service and stopped them. What a brilliant idea. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love the comedian Joe Lycett. What he's done is he's changed his name by default to Hugo Boss.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cute.
And the reason he's done it, dear listener, because he doesn't like big companies bullying small people. And so therefore he's changed his name to Hugo Boss. And
Good
legally in the UK, he is now Hugo Boss. And he can say
Can
to
you
the...
do that?
Yes, he's done it.
Wow.
He's done it. So he can give permission to the small businesses in the UK to carry on trading as Hugo Boss. And Keith says, hello, babe, Rach.
He's done a Richard Branson.
Yes.
There's a bit more to this. BBC West Midlands DJ Danny Kelly has announced he's changed his name to Joe Lycett. The world is now confused.
Right,
I'm changing my name to Eric next week.
Are you really? And finally this week, because we've only got 4 minutes left, the Home Office boss, he wasn't the boss. Every newspaper said Home Office boss has quit and he's threatening to sue the government. Now, Sir Philip Rutnam was not the boss of the Home Office. He was a senior civil servant who worked, i.e. they're in charge, for Priti Patel. And she was the boss, not Sir Philip. So Sir Philip, get it right. You are not the boss. You never were the boss. You were a civil servant. Therefore, you are subordinate to your senior person, i.e. the person in charge. You are not going to be able to have long lunches for 2 hours, wander around with your clipboard doing absolutely nout, like the rest of the civil servants do. It's a good thing that the government are saying, no, you've got to do a day's work. It's simple. No. Really? Joe Lycett's uncle decorated Keith's house.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Shows how posh Keith Lewis is, doesn't it?
I know he is posh. That's why I still want to be his friend.
Oh, I see. Because he's had a decorator in to
Maybe I could learn a thing or two. I'm not very classy.
Well, there you go. Rach, weekend, please.
It's a long weekend here, and for once I don't have to work. But tomorrow I'm going to go knocking door to door, selling toilet paper for $100 a week.
And Henry.
Well, I don't know. Is it a long weekend here? I do not know.
You're going to the doctor, Henry. You're going to the doctor.
I'm going to the doctor, yes. I'm going to get checked for coronavirus, and I've also have to work selling wine across Australia. Rach, I don't know. It's a long weekend where you are, but here in New South Wales, in Sydney, I don't think it is. But one way or the other, tomorrow, going to the doctor, working, selling wine, if I can stay alive, and then on Sunday.
You see, Henry is the epitome of an old pro radio person. He's got to go to the doctors to get tested for a virus, but he's still on the air.
Yep.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm going to see Joe Brown, the rock and roll legend, in concert.
When you went to
I didn't blag. I was offered.
You
No, I didn't.
You did. I know you. Hello. Oh, Joe, can I come to your concert, please?
I actually know you a bit too, and I know when you're lying.
Wait. We were on the point of leaving, and he offered them to all of the team that had been there. So.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's it. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Rach.
Goodbye, Henry.
Goodbye, Henry.
Goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye, Dave.
Oh, no, I don't believe it. Anyway.
I'm a thing, I'm telling you.
And that's it for another week on Postcard. Thank you for your company around the world, wherever you happen to be. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back same time next week. Same time, same place, same back channel. And hopefully Facebook will have fixed their glitchiness, which I'm sorry was beyond our control. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.
The Station of the Stars. RTI.